get this. An ABC American station had a little grab during their coverage of the Grand Prix on Sunday. Sorry, the Mexican Grand Prix. Nobody freak out. You haven't missed out. Saying that Kamala had won Pennsylvania just magically, somehow, 10 days in advance. 52% of the votes, apparently, she got compared to 47% for Republican challenger Donald Trump. There you can see it down the bottom of your screen. Is this a prediction? Is the world but a stage? What is going on here? Of course, the conspiracy theorists are now sounding off.
We can cancel the election now. It's fine. Cancel the election now. It's fine.
Welcome, everyone, to the Hurting Humanity channel. ABC station mistakenly airs election results, declaring Harris the winner of a key swing state. And you may feel like you're feeling the programming from people around you who are starting to whisper about election fraud. All of this coming down to the state of Pennsylvania. And, of course, doubts in their mind about what they're going to be told come Super Tuesday, come November 5th, come November 6th or 7th, because this is going to continue after the 5th. This is going to be something that goes back and forth. This person says they won, that person says they won, and we're going to continue to see it hotly debated with a lot of psyops around it, right? Like ballot boxes being burned, people being turned away from actually being allowed to vote. And this is all deliberately done. It's all deliberately done because you have to understand that what they're trying to do is destroy the infrastructure to bring in a new one. In other words, what they've been talking about at all of these big meetings that they go to, what they've been talking about in the open, which the media will not cover, which the alt-right media will not cover, is changing the infrastructure and bringing about artificial intelligence as the new infrastructure. You may have heard and seen how they're trying to normalize AI. Do a basic Google search now, and what comes up first? AI. All these people on TV are now talking about AI and getting you comfortable with AI and how AI is going to benefit us. We just had Oprah talking about it. We have Billy Gates, of course, pushing it down people's throats. This is deliberately being done. So this is the most important narrative to pay attention to. Of course, 99.9% of people can't grasp that the Republicans and the Democrats are working together, that they're working together to sabotage, to sow distrust, to make you think that we can't actually believe the results of the outcome of the election on both sides. They're making both sides believe this deliberately. And that's how we all know that a massive psyop is coming out of it, and it's already begun. It's already begun because ABC, quote unquote, mistakenly aired the election results and declared Harris the winner of key states. This is deliberate gaslighting because every conservative out there that sees this says, no, they're rigging the election. What they need to wrap their heads around is that the election itself isn't real. It's your perception of this actually being real. You emotionally investing yourself into thinking that this is real. So then when they do things like this, you start to get angry. You start to say, how would they know the results ahead of time? They're planning on airing that come election night. They're deliberately making people question the validity and the outcome of the election. That's what they want. That's what they're doing, working together, making Democrats skeptical. If something happens in a key state like Pennsylvania, which is the one they're telling you about, but could be Arizona, but telling you Pennsylvania, you should question the outcome if it somehow goes in Trump's favor. Ooh, you should question the outcome if it goes in Kamala's favor because they already told you and accidentally posted the election results ahead of time, which means that the Democrats are planning on rigging the election. But you need to get past that because the election isn't rigged. I can't say it enough. It's not real. That's the hardest leap for some of these people to make, is that the election itself is fake. They think it's rigged. There's a huge difference between the two. Rig would imply that your vote actually counts, and then there's a certain group of people who are throwing your ballots away or mailing in fake ballots so that the person they want to win will win, or allowing illegal immigrants to vote so that they will win. This continually creates the illusion that your vote actually counts. It does not count. This is the illusion of a free society here in America. That's what the American experiment is. Can they use mind control on you to convince you of all these things, to get you to accept all these things? And it's worked. And the biggest one, of course, is believing that your vote counts, that this is a quote-unquote republic that they now call a democracy. So let me show you a couple of these stories. It's really important to pay attention to because this is out there deliberately. ABC deliberately did that for this story. They didn't deliberately do that expecting no one to catch it. They expected everybody to catch it. Then they expected it to go viral. That's how psychological operations work. So an ABC station ignited a flurry of conspiracy theories after it aired what appeared to be official election results for Pennsylvania that showed Kamala Harris easily winning the state more than a week before the election. The shocking result popped up at the bottom of the screen during Sunday's broadcast of the Formula One Mexico Grand Prix. It showed the vice president capturing 52% of the votes compared to Trump's 47% for the Republican challenger Donald Trump with 100% of the precincts reporting. So it's at 100% of the precincts reporting. So when I talk about this being deliberately done, you see what you have to understand about what the government's done here is they've created the Q movement, okay? And what the Q movement is fed conspiracy theories. The government is feeding all of these things out there, like flight log lists. They're putting it out there, and all of these people think that they're sleuths and they're finding truth, and they're going down a formulated, government-created rabbit hole where they want you to stay. It's almost like a deliberate vacuum of conspiracies that they're creating for you. So this is no different because people out there think that this aired out there accidentally. They think that it went out there accidentally. Oh my gosh, ABC did not mean to air that. They didn't mean for you to find it. They didn't mean for the New York Post and other media outlets to report on it. Well, of course they did. Of course they deliberately did. This is how they play with their minds. So all of these people in the Q movement obviously see this and they're saying there's a huge conspiracy. And they believe this whole notion of Donald Trump trying to defeat the deep state, that he's not one of them. And they'll do everything they can to stop him, including miraculously continually miss assassination attempts on his life. It's a deliberate, concocted conspiracy. That's what I'm telling you. So WNEP TV, who was the affiliate that aired this, and of course it's perfect to do it this way, like on an affiliate versus on a national level. It makes it feel more like they didn't want you to see it, right? Because of course, if you say it on a national level, everybody could speculate a little bit, well, how could it get on a national television, right? Oh, this local little affiliate market who's getting given all this stuff already accidentally put it up on the screen before they were supposed to put it up on the screen. It makes it feel more real. This is psychological operations. This is how it works. So they said those numbers should not have appeared on the screen. It was an error by WNEP that they did. Okay, the numbers seen on the screen were randomly generated test results sent out to help news organizations make sure their equipment is working properly in advance of election night. And of course, they give you that answer because that answer makes this seem more and more like a conspiracy. That makes it seem like, holy crap, they're giving out randomly generated test results. This sounds like a poo-poo answer. This doesn't sound like a real answer. I don't believe that answer, and that's what they want. They don't want you to believe their answer. They want you to believe that accidentally happened, and that's what they're going to air on election night. It wouldn't even surprise me if that does air on election night. I mean, I feel like this is going to be neck and neck because of all the narratives that they're saying, right? They're telling us that this is going to be highly contested. And like I said earlier, the point is to take down the infrastructure. The point is to bring in a digital ID. After all this stuff happens on Tuesday, you're going to see seesaw events occur. You're going to see the media go back and forth about who won this versus who won that. Who won this county versus who won that county, right? And that's why all this other stuff is out there now, right? Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit against Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Supposedly, Republicans are going to the ballot boxes being turned away from actually being allowed to vote. Okay, we never heard stuff like this before because this is manufactured. And now that the media has you constantly listening to all this stuff that's out there because people are on their phone 24/7, they could take full control of your mind and create psyops at every single second, which is what they're doing, which is how they get people into this hypnotism. So Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit in PA, right? Well, now we have Pennsylvania Democrats filing lawsuits too, right? So you see how the seesaw works? Both sides are questioning. Both sides are having trust issues with the outcome of the election. And if the goal is to change the infrastructure, if all they want to do is bring about AI governance, okay, how do you think they're going to do that? You think tomorrow, if none of this stuff was going on and they said, hey, we're going to make you get a digital ID, we're going to change the whole voting process, you can't do anything by mail or paper anymore, blah, 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 that everybody would be on board? They'd say no. And they'd say, why are you doing this? And no, they wouldn't even pay attention to it. But they have to get you emotionally invested in it so that you want what they want you to have. That's how this whole thing works. So you have Trump suing Pennsylvania, you have Democrats suing Pennsylvania, and you have all these other weird stories that keep popping up on affiliate stations like in Denver, right? County election watcher dismissed while observing signature verification. Because what they want you to do is they want these alt-right media channels to cover these types of stories and then talk about them as if, so-and-so who's counting the votes is a Democrat, so he can't be trusted. He's throwing out Republican voters, actually, their ballots. He's taking them and putting them in the trash, and vice versa, back and forth, seesaw, psychological, planting seeds. And then they want you to take these stories and talk about, well, if they're doing that in Denver, they could be doing that somewhere else. How do we know that some person who's a lib isn't getting, seeing Donald Trump votes come in and isn't lighting them on fire, right? Well, we can't trust it. We can't trust it. We got to do something about it. And here comes the digital ID, right? They are gaslighting people. They are really pulling people deeper into the psychosis with all these stories coming out. And they want you to talk about these stories as if they're real. They want you to believe that these things are real. And if you're emotionally invested, if you're a Trump supporter and you think all this stuff is real, what do you think your response is going to be? If you hear that there's some Democrat who's counting the ballots is throwing them out, you're going to be angry because that's you. That's your vote. That's your politician. That's your team that they're throwing the vote out for. That's not fair. And then the government says, we got to do something about this. We can't trust the outcome of these elections anymore. Well, what's the solution? Tell us what we can do about it. Well, we all use our phones, right? Yeah, we all trust tech. Tech doesn't show one side or the other. It's just a machine. It doesn't lean Democrat or conservative. It just literally will count the votes as they come in. But we need people out there, of course, to have digital verification. We need their credentials to be digital, right? And everyone will go, all right, that sounds fair. And if you're not an American citizen, well, you can't have a digital ID. You could have your digital ID from your country, but not in America, because it'll register you as an American citizen. Okay, fine. That sounds great. And these people will be on board, hook, line, and sinker. And once it's in place, once the digital ID is in place, then we start going down, 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 one domino at a time. Carbon footprint, bank accounts frozen, monitoring and tracking your movements, monitor and tracking what you say online, because your digital ID, if they tell you all this stuff at once, nobody would be on board with the digital ID, right? If they tell you that the digital ID, when they come out and say, hey, if we have this, then we won't have this election interference anymore. We don't have to worry about any of it. Everyone will be like, that's great, because they all believe the election's real. And that's the problem. You got to understand the truth, which is that it's not, right? But they'll all be on board with that. But if you tell them, hey, this digital ID is also going to tie into what you say on the internet, and the police are going to show up at your front door if you have some anonymous account, if you're online and you're writing this or that, because they don't know who you are. If they told you all that ahead of time, then people go, I don't know, maybe the government is making this up so that we get this thing in place. But they don't think like that because they're emotionally sucked in to these psychological ops that the government releases. So that's what it leads to eventually. Right? Because then the digital ID is in place, and suddenly, like we see now, like I was talking about with the passkey, right? Every time you log into Google, Gmail, PayPal, these accounts, what are they asking you for now? Oh, we're going to send a code to your phone was what it started with. And you're just like, why are they doing this? So annoying. My phone's downstairs. I don't have my cell phone near me, right? Well, they expect you to always be on it. Then if you are on it, then you just click a button and you get a text and you type in the code, right? But it's annoying, is it not? Then it's the passkey. Right now they're saying you got to get a digital passkey. We're switching to passkeys. Passwords aren't needed anymore. Well, that's exactly what they're going to do with the digital ID, because they're going to give you a 6-month window and they're going to say, hey, YouTube, hey, Google, hey, Facebook, we all need verification of who you are. There's too many spam things going on. People are pretending to be Keanu Reeves and they're ending up sending money to people in Pakistan because they think they're going to go on. All these insane stories that they've continually rolled out that people believe, right? Then they're just going to go in 6 months, you got to do it. 6 months, you got to do it. And you just keep pressing the skip. And then you go to log in, you can't get in. And they go, well, you're going to have to put your digital ID in to get into YouTube. And you go, well, what's the big deal? I have a digital ID anyway because for voting, I got my digital ID. Okay, fine. Here's my digital ID. YouTube, here's my digital ID. Facebook. Then, a couple weeks later, you post something where you say, hey, I don't like what Donald Trump's doing. I don't like what Kamala Harris is doing. Or I think they're committing this crime, or they're doing this with China, or blah, 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 blah. Oh, maybe there is a conspiracy. All of a sudden, the police show up at your door. Because once it's in place where everything's done digitally, once it's in place with the ID to link you to every single thing. Now, I know that they could link your IP, but that's a big process. It's a big process to get the IP. A lot of people use VPNs and get around that stuff. Digital ID means you type it in and you won't be able to have these sock accounts anymore. There won't be channels like this anymore where, you go, I don't know who that person is. You'll be held accountable. It's like a different universe. It's two worlds, the digital realm, the physical realm, right? Spiritual realm, physical realm. You see where I'm going with all this stuff? But that's what this leads to. Then you log in, you write something online, it becomes criminalized. You say something online, your bank account suddenly might be frozen because now your bank account's set up through your digital ID. Everything goes through it. And then when the carbon footprint comes out, when they start hitting people with more and more storms, because for the next 10 years, 5 years, more and more of these ridiculous storms continue to happen, right? Repetition. These people will believe that they're all naturally occurring events, and then we have to change the way we live. And remember, Larry Fink and all these people, they constantly talk about how they want to control the way that we live, our behavior, which is what they've really done from the advent of the television has been about behavioral control. The purpose of these celebrities is about behavioral control, convincing you to live this way, to like these things. It's all mind control. That's the American experiment. And the American experiment just comes down, it comes down to the illusion of choice, the illusions of freedom. I always just use the reference at the grocery store, right? The same companies own all these brands. And you're like, well, should I get Kraft mac and cheese or Stouffer's? Which one tastes better? You look at the side of the box, it's the same crap chemicals. Then you look up the pyramid and the same people own both companies. That's the illusion of freedom, right? That's the illusion that's going on. Why do you think they've so hell-bent for so many years to talk about America and freedom and freedom and freedom? To convince you that you're actually free and that you actually vote for these people. And then, you'll hold your neighbors accountable for who they vote for if they vote for the wrong actual choice, because we all voted and it's on us and we picked these, that's part of the game here. That's the experiment that they talk about when they say the American experiment. And if you get past all of this stuff with your vote counting, if you actually realize it ain't rigged, it isn't real, then you start to wake up to what they're actually doing. Then you start realizing, wow, there's that old motto, divide and conquer, right? Heard about it since we were kids. And who you feel the nation divided, we keep hearing about, right? And who you divided, again, your neighbor. Based on what? Oh, well, I don't get along with my neighbor. He's got a Biden flag. I'm a Trump supporter. Oh, right. So then you just have to ask yourself, well, divide and conquer, what are you missing here? Oh, you're missing the word conquer. Who is it that's being conquered? The people who are being divided. And who's being divided? All of us are. So this story is as deliberate as it comes. Right? And you'll hear people out there who are saying, did you hear about that story that they aired the results ahead of time in that state? This is how they gaslight. This is how they bait you. They bait you into government-created conspiracies. That's what they've been doing the last 8 years. That's what the point of the Q movement was, to take people who are waking up to conspiracies and then give them fake ones. You could talk to 90% of these people who think they know what's going on who are Q. They don't know any of the actual real things that are going on when it comes to conspiracies, right? They the Q people, they barely discuss things like chemtrails and geoengineering. It's all surface level stuff like lists of flight logs and things like that the government gives you. Why do you think the stories are out there? Now they're all into the P. Diddy thing, right? They feed you this stuff and they take you away from what's actually going on. Imagine 50% of the population realized that treason was being committed on both sides and they were working. Imagine 100% did. Well, there'd be a revolution, right? There would just be hey, you know what? Yeah, we're done with this. We'll just move away from you. No one will pay their taxes. Nobody will participate anymore. American experiment will be over, and the criminals and the corporations behind it will be arrested and held accountable. But that can't happen if you stay sucked in the left-right paradigm, because it's designed to keep you trapped. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.